Hi, good afternoon, Justin. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Dharam. How are you?
I'm doing great, great, great. Good to see you again. And so many podcasts we have done so far, and I'm excited. And while we're talking about these topics, I'm learning a lot from these topics and learning from you. Fantastic journey.
It absolutely is. We look back and it doesn't seem that long ago, but we're coming up. I think I ended up meeting you in August, I think, of last year. So here we are. It went so fast, but we're coming up on a year already before we started our PgMP and PfMP journeys. It's crazy. Where I don't know where the time goes.
Exactly. Yes. I know you passed exams, both exams, and then this is probably our ninth or 10th podcast. So we done good, I think.
Hope so. Hopefully the viewers feel the same.
All right. So look, today's topic is not very complex, but solving that is a good thing. Like problem solving, talking about problem solving and decision making in program and portfolio management. So we do have lots of problems and issues in, time to time we make decisions, some good decisions, some bad decisions, what we do to get the decision, what we like and move forward. Yeah. So the question I have, sometimes it's more like too many cook spoil the broth, or maybe not. Do you agree with this statement? How it impacts the decision-making process?
I agree with the statement. I've heard it many different ways, and too many chiefs and not enough Indians or any of the different different types of examples. But I do agree with it because especially when you're in a position of making decisions, you can go with the information that you have and make a decision, and then come to the point where you're ready to implement it, and then you find out someone else that's either equal or greater than you from a seniority standpoint has already made a decision. So then it just becomes very frustrating, first and foremost, for yourself. But not only that, I think more than anything, it really creates a dissent within the team. It almost becomes you have a fraction team, and it becomes where first off, it's inefficient to have several people working on the same particular issue or several teams. And so that in and of itself becomes, hey, we just wasted our time trying to solve an issue when you folks over here have already done so. And so that definitely will grind my gears, so to speak, in many ways, just because it creates a rift within your team, and a frustration. And then after you figure that out, then you're having to overcome the hurdles again, where likely the decision that you made may be different than what other decision was made. And so then you're going to have to deconflict it, get everybody back on the same page, and it becomes very difficult, time consuming. And at the end of the day, it's just not very good for your customers' overall execution. So that's how I feel about it. It definitely gets frustrating with I like it. Too many cooks spoil the broth. Most definitely, I agree with that.
But at the same time, if you have right people in the problem solving, and you have right some good coordinator and coordinate the things properly, those many cooks can actually make a good dish as well.
You're absolutely right. I would actually say from a whether you want to call it the PMO or the steering committee or some of those, I think ultimately, like you've said, yeah, it can be fantastic, but if they're not on the same page, if all the cooks aren't on the same page, that's where really the issues come together. And so it's very important for those cooks, so to speak, to be on the same page, and that that otherwise you're going to have inefficiencies, and ultimately it's going to hurt your execution. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Having that depth of knowledge, and certainly when you might not have all the information that that other person has. And so again, it's important for that transparency to make sure that your team overall is operating on the same page and being as efficient as possible.
Yeah, and I think some of the skills we have as a program manager, portfolio manager can also be useful in such environment. First thing, bringing everybody on the same page, and like a lot of stakeholder engagement required. Make sure everybody on aligned with your thought process, and you put them clear roles and responsibilities, and help each other in decision making and or in the thinking. So yes, it can spoil if you don't act properly, or if you utilize some of the skills you have as a program manager, portfolio manager, project manager, you can actually get better decision or good outcome from those meetings.
Yeah, I would agree. And quite honestly, our job as portfolio or program managers is being leaders and making sure that we're sharing the vision and the mission for our programs and portfolios to operate at that level. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So let's talk about what are the critical problem solving and decision making skills for program and portfolio managers.
Well, I would say first, from you have to have leadership qualities, making sure that you're on top of your game. I think being a leader, having those qualities, I think servant leadership is one of the best ways to go. But certainly, it depends on your team and maybe how mature they may be. So you have to have adaptability as well to be able to navigate through the different. You may have such a diverse team, and they probably may be geographically separated around the world. So having that understanding and adaptability and being agile, quite frankly, will help you from a leadership standpoint, leading your team. Decision-making skills, I think you have to have patience, and you have to be able to listen very well. I think, especially when you're trying to solve issues where before you come in with any kind of preconceived notion or anything else, listen to all perspectives first and gather all the information, and then be able to, truly think about it, be deliberate, understand it, analyze, any type of unintended consequences of any decision that you might go down. So those, I think, are probably some of the most important. But one that I would probably put more than anything, especially when you're in problem-solving situations, and some can be real pressure cookers, is your customer relationship management. I think if you have a good relationship with your customer, no matter how stressful the situation may be, if you have that relationship where you have that transparency, you can use that to be able to, quite frankly, just be honest with them. And I've been in situations myself where without that particular relationship, we would have been in some real dire consequences. However, because of that transparency with that customer, we're able to adapt and overcome, and they understood as to how we got into that position, and ultimately we were able to turn that negative particular situation into a great triumph. So the being able to have that customer relationship, and even not just your customer, but your overall stakeholders, I think is probably the most critical, especially at the program and portfolio level.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So that and yeah, ability to engage with your stakeholder and bring them onto the same thought process you have is one of the great quality. Other than that, you mentioned about this leadership, servant leadership, definitely something you have to do. And few other things you can think of, utilizing the Tuckman ladder situation. When you're forming a team, you're getting people, expert from, let's say, from your company, various part of it. They are a very specialized area. They're coming with special skills. All of them are best in their field, and you're going to bring them together. They're going to have their own uniqueness, hey, I'm the best kind of thing. And you need to see how this from norming to storming and storming to has to minimize, and then you have to get them to normalizing, and that's where the problem solving situation is getting resolved properly, because now everybody is understanding everybody's point of view and they are aligned, and then you get the result.
No question.
Yeah. And yeah, so this is actually very important for any program manager, portfolio manager, and time to time we do get in situation. Yes, everything going smoothly, everything on target. Suddenly something happened, and I can tell you, it happened to me when working for HP, setting the cloud data center in 2010, and when the cloud is getting started. Knowledge was very limited in outside and inside, and there was a backup problem happening. How the backup has to be happening every whatever time. So something was happening, nobody knew what to do, and it started. That's probably local. Then you realize that, hey, we need to solve it, otherwise you cannot. So engaging with European team and American team, and so running it 24/7, and ensuring that we are moving toward that direction. So it took 7 days to, with 24/7 kind of thing situation, 7 days before realizing that, hey, I can actually, I'm actually getting one person. He's joining my team. So I just start talking to him. Look, we have this problem, and they say, okay, Dharam, give me half an hour, and I will solve the problem. So nothing was going on. Suddenly, bang! I realized this person can be a absolute very good help to us, and he took only 15 minutes, problem solved.
Well, meanwhile, you had 7 days in the pressure cooker.
I mean, you cannot, yes, you're hammering maybe wrong place. You know how we're breaking a big rock. You may be hammering wrong place. Somebody who's expert in that area, hey, don't worry, I'll just give you so much, just 2 hammers, and I will crack the rock.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, those are always some fun ones, but I always find that those particular situations, as whether you're a project, program, portfolio manager, those are the ones that really build the character to where you and your team have found a way to make it happen. Yeah, it was a stressful 7 days, but you found the answer, and one particular individual got it done for you, or at least got you across the finish line to get out of the issue. Where I think that those situations ultimately even build more team camaraderie. And not only that, that's the kind of armor that you as a program, portfolio, project manager, whatever it is, it starts to build the armor on you, where you can always reach back to where, okay, fast forward to another project and you're in another situation. It gives you that confidence to go, all right, we're going to find a way. I don't necessarily know how yet, but we're going to find that way. If we can get out of this, we're going to be able to get, or if we got out of that, we're going to be able to get out of this. And I think as a PM, it really gives you that, that experience to be able to, solve the next challenge that you're currently faced with. Those are the ones that you earn your stripes on.
Yeah, the most important thing is you need to believe in yourself, and you should be able to see that there's a light. You should believe that there's light after the tunnel, and you continuously, this thing didn't work. Okay, let me try something else. Let me try this one. So you need to explore all the possible options, and sometimes knowing about the team and your resources as a project program portfolio manager is very important. It's not the numbers. Hey, this person has this quality, and he's expert in that area. And once you know that, hey, why don't I should talk to this guy, and maybe he has option solution.
Yeah, those lessons learned are so critical. When you're facing more issues later after you solve that. It's to this day, I still, when we're faced with someone brings a particular situation to me, I'll always, they'll be in a panic, and I'm going, oh, I got this, no problem. Sometimes I might let them sweat a little bit just to let them feel it because they need to feel it. But at the same point, I'm going, that's not even an issue, quite frankly. But we'll let you sweat on it for a little bit. And we'll solve it, no problem. But those are the type of situations that really build you up and you get your wings from it.
Yeah. And you have to like right timing as well. Sometimes you believe that this should be known to them, but you also realize that they are not ready for this. So you give them some teaser, let them digest and become used to of that. Oh, I really want this. Really want this now. So very simple thing. When I was, my kids were growing up, I was trying to teach them doing about yoga at the time, and try teaching, maybe get them started early in the early life, and they didn't pick it up at the time. So boring and so and so. Now one day, my son calling, hey, Dad, I am trying meditation. I'm doing yoga. I'm doing this. And he start talking some Sanskrit word. He don't know Hindi at all. And he start talking some Sanskrit word. He said, Dad, you never teach me about this. It's so good. He said, I know I want to teach you, but that was not the right time. Now you know that you need it. I can talk to you in a different language.
It's funny you say that. I was literally just having a discussion with my dad not long ago, kind of in similar things where my grandfather, my dad's dad, back when I was very young, given that he lived out in the Northern Virginia area. So, talk about a history, just being around you, American history. I remember we took a trip up to Gettysburg, certainly one of the bloodiest battles in the Civil War. And, as a young kid, you don't really appreciate some of that stuff, and different things like that. And, now I look back, I again, because you're young and you see it, you have an understanding, so to speak. But until you get older and that maturity, you look back and you're like, wow, what I would give to be able to, first off, be in the car with my grandfather again. Unfortunately, he passed away, back in 2006. But knowing what I know now and having that mature understanding, gosh, I would love for him to be quizzing me about certain things, in the back of the car instead of when I was, 8 years old and, I barely knew a history book at that point in time. But now I think as you get older, you really appreciate that stuff more than anything.
Yeah. And that brings to the point, like, when organizations trying to, kind of impose that this is how we should do, without realizing the team or the stakeholders are not ready, the people, the beneficiaries are not ready. So we can talk about this topic in great depth, more about then let the change. If they ask for the change, your job is done. If you're imposing the change, you kind of, they may have to do it because you're asking, but as soon as you're not there, they will run away. But if they can create an environment where they're asking for the change, you have to create the environment. You need to encourage them. If you can create the environment where they're asking for the change, your job is done. And
that's true.
And sometimes it may take time, but that result is much better than when you're imposing something.
Yeah, no, I agree completely.
Okay, all right. So let's say, how will this current generation or current technology, such as artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, impact the decision making and enable portfolio program managers as a problem solvers?
What a loaded question there on that one. But I will say this, from an AI perspective, funny enough, I was reading some things this morning, and I happened to see, I think it was on LinkedIn, somebody posted it, and it was a like a high-rise tower being built, and maybe it was only a quarter of the way out of the ground, and they literally actually it was one of them. It acts like a billboard, but it was one of them wraps that they can attach to the building around the windows, and it said something along the lines where AI will not build this building, your skills are needed. So I was like, I kind of, yeah, I like that, but I found that one very interesting where I think we've talked about it before in previous podcasts where, it's going to help efficiency wise, no question. But if you could have all the technology in the world, but if you don't know how to use it right, it's no good. It's worthless. And so some of that remains to be seen. However, what I will say with the technologies, from an impact decision-making standpoint, I would even go to, when you're first looking at a particular opportunity and say you're having to put your request for quote together, because of those new artificial intelligence things where it's going to create additional efficiencies, I think you might see where costs of particular opportunities may be reduced.
Yeah,
That's just a possibility. Now, other companies may be looking at that going, okay, well, that's actually a way for us to increase profit margin where, we're going to have a machine be able to do it. So could go both ways. We'll see what happens. But from an efficiency standpoint, on a daily basis, daily operational standpoint, I think there definitely will be some efficiencies there. Now, problem solving, again, obviously, it all depends on the industry that you're in. Now, if you're in real construction or things like that, I'm not really sure. Now, from an administrative standpoint, I think there definitely could be some real efficiencies. But at the end of the day, I guess call me old-fashioned. I still believe in people, and face-to-face meetings, I think, are some of the best ways to actually solve problems. Perfect example is I actually was having a discussion with someone recently where, Zoom and Microsoft Teams and all these particular platforms are fantastic, but they still don't truly replace face-to-face meetings because you're not able to truly understand body language of that particular individual. You're not necessarily sure the genuineness of that person. And so those are the type of intangibles that I think that you won't be able to truly replace with all technology. Again, call me old-fashioned, but it means something when you're meeting with someone face to face, and especially solving complex problems, I think. But certainly there's going to be some things where, okay, we're just going to let AI handle that. But again, at the end of the day, I personally, again, call me old-fashioned, but I like people working with each other to ultimately solve issues.
look, AI is not something, a person or machine, solve my problems. No. Yes, you can have a machine learning, let them do the same thing again. That's one thing. But in my eyes, AI is you cannot have artificial intelligence unless you have good data.
Exactly.
The lesson learned from the past program, past problem solved, past problem happened. Then you can rely on your some artificial decision-making tools. And they are just giving you hints and possible directions. But still, human interaction is required. You need to think, okay, this happened in that particular problem, and we solved it. But this is a little bit different, maybe more unique. But you can utilize some of the learning from that into your problem solving, and maybe you have better results because of you got some hint from other situation. And something like ChatGPT. I was not very strong opinion about ChatGPT, but ever since I started using it, it's absolutely amazing technology. You give a problem, give a particular situation, and it will give you lots of alternatives. And amazing, you may not take all the, you go through them. What that means is you get pointers, because when you think, we have limitation. But when you look at, you ask other people, in this case, machine who can look around on the internet, entire web, World Wide Web, you may get different options. So that's where I think utilization of new technology can be useful. Trust, not just trust, but ask question. We are used to doing Google and other thing, but it gives you limited information. But in the ChatGPT, I just put a problem. This is what's going on. I actually tell, hey, you are expert in this area, and I wanted to solve this. Can you help me with this? Absolutely. And then we have a 2-pager information within few seconds. So they cannot, ChatGPT cannot replace you as a human, but they can give you pointers, directions, and possible options. So you have to do some pros and cons, and then work with other people you're able to solve.
Yeah, it can give you a different perspective. I'll actually give you a quick example. Of course, right now, after the NBA playoffs are ongoing right now, and the big question is the who's the GOAT, the greatest of all time in basketball, and whether is it Michael Jordan or LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, things like that. And so they asked, I don't know if it was ChatGPT or AI, whatever it was, one of those particular platforms, and it ended up coming up, of course, like you said, data, big data, and ended up coming up with the top 10. And but interesting enough, it did have Michael Jordan #1, but #2, they actually had Tim Duncan, who was the center for the San Antonio Spurs for many years, which if he isn't a Hall of Famer already, he will be shortly, I'm sure. But statistically, when you look at what he did and the championships that he won, the AI, whatever platform came up with going, oh gosh, should we be including that, that particular person in that discussion, so it brought up, Tim Duncan has not been included in any of those particular discussions. It's always been, between LeBron, Kobe, and Michael, and some others. So, like you said, it gives you a different perspective and something, how are you going to truly define, who is the greatest of all time? And so it was fascinating to see, and, which then, of course, stirred up a whole debate on who wants to be, or who's the greatest of all time. But yeah, it's definitely something that can give you another perspective.
Yeah, I mean, we cannot blindly accept what the ChatGPT or any technology is telling you. We need to use our own intelligence as well. I'll give you one more example. One guy, he was my PfMP student, and he got some questions, some, I don't know from where. And we had some sessions. Hey, Dharam, I'm going to send you some questions, 30, 35 questions. And can we have a discussion about them? It's absolutely no problem. So I checked this question, I gave him my responses and my answer. Now, during the discussion, he said, Dharam, the ChatGPT is saying this. Okay, look, ChatGPT will tell you what information available on the internet. Of course, have some intelligence there. And so I was able to, confirm that 50% question what ChatGPT was saying, the actually wrong. So we cannot just trust, but yes, as we know that they can give you various, looking at the various data point and give you various options and different perspective. So look at those and don't just accept as it is. Okay, analyze them. You can further clarify with the ChatGPT. Hey, what do you think? Do you think this way? My thinking is this. Actually, that two-way conversation worked really well with ChatGPT, especially ChatGPT.
You should ask him if ChatGPT has a PfMP cert.
No, actually, ChatGPT-4 will tell you, I don't have, but I have access to so many PfMPs and the mentors around the world, because whatever information I'm sharing or somebody else sharing, that stays with that. And ChatGPT-4 is taking, or ChatGPT is taking out all the information. So they're using brain power of all the people around the world.
Well, ChatGPT at 50% is not going to get that certification.
I know. Yeah, that's where ChatGPT should take my class.
That's right. They need to get in the mentoring class. They need to get it together.
Exactly. Good. Thank you. So how can we make better, faster project decisions in VUCA environment as we move into economic uncertainty?
Yeah, this is a great question. And I know I've probably repeated myself on this several times on these podcasts, but I always try and say, control what you can control. And that obviously also means looking forward, understanding what the marketplace is doing, what are the trends, doing trend analysis, gap analysis, seeing what the market is actually doing is certainly part of that when I say control what you can control. And make the best decisions to be able to move forward. But as we just talked about, Chat GPT or the AI type platforms can give you another point of view to be able to, take a look at and understand. But how can we make better, faster decisions in a project? I don't necessarily, I think at the end of the day, it's part of having a well-seasoned team. I think, quite frankly, is really at the end of the day, being able to, when you're already in that performing stage as a team where you guys, everybody knows each other's capabilities, and you're not having those conflict when you're storming and norming and all those different things, where you're able to just get in and get after it. I think certainly will be is always helpful. That continuity is always gives everybody a peace of mind, to include the customer that you're working for. I think that automatically gives some relevance in the trust, and how the particular team is gonna execute. But in this constantly changing environment, you have to be agile, and you almost have to expect changes to happen on the fly and be ready for them as much as you can. And as a program manager, or portfolio or project, you need to constantly be looking not just what's happening today or tomorrow or next week. You need to be looking into the months that follow, and again, that's why with the different certifications, teaching you how to constantly be evaluating risks and your mitigations, and because that is constantly changing. I know even in our security environment that I typically work in, what we put together from a vulnerability assessment on a Friday could be completely outdated by a Monday. There's so many things that are constantly happening in the world. Being aware of that and constantly evaluating things, they're really going to be the ones that can make better and faster decisions, because you're already well informed to be able to make those decisions and have those mitigation plans. So that is a long-winded answer, but at the end of the day, being able to control what you can control and expecting the unexpected, I think, is really a mentality that you need to have.
Absolutely. So no, yes, we talk about VUCA. VUCA is volatile environment, uncertain, complexity, a lot of complexity and ambiguity. So when we talk about VUCA, things are happening very fast and unexpectedly. So being aware, as you mentioned, being aware is very, very important. Yes, you're about to make a final decision. Let's look it again and see what maybe in the last few seconds something has changed. Maybe war in Ukraine and Russia has finished immediately. That can change the decisions altogether. Yeah. So being aware and knowing what's happening, collaborating with right people, being agile, all these qualities can definitely help you as a project program portfolio manager to solve some of the very, very complex problems.
Yeah, the biggest one more recently, you mentioned Ukraine, but what's happened in Sudan and how that kind of can affect, certainly the Red Sea, and moving up through the Suez Canal can affect supply chains, which, tons of shipping, energy and cargo go through the Suez Canal. Certainly with the humanitarian efforts, that literally popped off overnight. Certainly it wasn't necessarily like all of a sudden it happened, but there were things before it actually popped off that could have led, that folks could have, that are operating in that particular part of the world, could have probably looked at that and go, hey, we need to, obviously no one wants to see that, but we need to always make worst case scenario plans and hoping that we never have to use them. But you need to have those risk mitigation plans and understanding, if something does happen, what are we going to do? And you saw actually Saudi Arabia was one of the first ones to step up and bringing in their Navy to bring them across the Red Sea to safety and humanitarian efforts. I know thousands have made their way to Jeddah for safety. So seeing that and how companies and different countries react is certainly is a fascinating and important aspect of what's happening, and certainly those mitigation strategies were implemented long ago.
Good. Yep. Okay, great. Thank you. So let me ask you another question. How do program portfolio managers identify the missing link between project governance and decision making?
That's a great question. I would say, certainly with project governance, at least in the world that I live in, sometimes decision making or decisions get made without truly thinking about the unintended consequences first and foremost, and making decisions without looking at particular standards or i.e. governance. And that can be a real challenge. I think more than anything, certainly you're probably not going to be able to identify until something happens. But I think really at the end of the day, looking at your program portfolio management plans, making sure that that is implemented immediately in your particular plans will certainly save you a lot of heartache in the long run. But I think, quite honestly, from a lesson learned standpoint, I think it'd probably be in any repository that you could find on the planet. Typically there's going to be some type of decision making that happened without consulting, the proper authorities or stakeholders and governance, to where it ended up costing a lot of money to undo something that shouldn't have happened in the first place. So I think, that's from a program and portfolio manager standpoint. Again, looking at your repositories and flat out up front, making sure as you're implementing a particular program or portfolio, having a focus on that, because it will truly burn you in the end on that.
Exactly. Good thought. All right. Let me ask another question. No comments for the previous question. You absolutely nailed it. Okay. How to overcome behavioral biases during the decision making? And if you can share some experience when you're dealing with biased team, how do you handle this kind of team effectively?
I think probably in my younger years, I didn't want to admit it more than anything with biases. I was just convinced that if I had the majority of everyone's support, that I thought what I did was right. I think probably as you get older and more experienced, I think for me nowadays is anytime that let's say I make a suggestion to the team and most people agree, I immediately question myself. Am I being biased? Is there something that, an unintended consequence or an unintended bias, or did I not present it in an honest way, or did I present the particular information in a way that's going to benefit my decision? I think as you get older, you even start to evaluate yourself and what you say and how you say it. Did I sway them in any way? And I think, again, as you move up the chain of command, I think it's important to constantly not only be evaluating your team, but to be evaluating yourself and how you're presenting information. And quite honestly, just flat out up front, I've even stated where, after I've realized I've come to a consensus, and then I would literally say, all right, I feel that all of us are biased. So who in this room doesn't agree with me, and why? And I'd truly want to know why, because we may be overlooking something, or we're just not looking at it from the right perspective. So again, I think really this question comes down to some real seasoned leadership, and it comes down to truly just being honest, and looking for that reason, like, all right, why did we come to a consensus right away? And it could just be because that's the right decision, but constantly be asking yourself, not necessarily second guessing yourself, but going through that checkbox in your own mind. All right, did I present this in a biased way? I think that's very important, especially as you're moving up, and your decisions as you get higher up can have bigger and bigger consequences if they're not fully vetted.
Absolutely, yeah. Being aware that yes, I might be biased towards a certain particular stakeholder, or maybe particular decision, or even the team. When the presentations done by the people, they may be giving you examples and situation so that you can also shift your bias toward that as well. And that's what happened. Currently media is doing it. If they want that this particular person to be seen as one of the favorable person, they create a picture in your mind that this is all the situation, all the whatever is happening, so that your decision, let's say at the time of voting, become biased decision. That's what they try to shift you at that side. Yep, being aware that hey, somebody's trying to manipulate your thought process, and you be careful about hey, I have to be independently thinking and help the decision making properly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. How to gather information from negative stakeholders and sponsors to support decision. In reality, whether they have the mindset to share vital information critical to the project success.
This one, I think, comes down. I know we've talked about this one in previous podcasts, but one of really the way that I've been able to handle negative stakeholders, first and foremost, when I get in the room, it kind of again goes back to the fact that it's important to have those face-to-face meetings with folks, because that's when you can truly be able to understand your negative stakeholders, because ultimately they're likely the ones that are probably going to give you the most problems and could be the ones that are ultimately writing the checks.
Yeah.
And for me, how I do that is, because what they're doing is it's not personal. Everyone always has to remember that. There can be negative towards the job that you're trying to do, but it's not personal. And so for me, I go and make a friend. I forget the work side of things. I want to go and get to know the person. Find some commonalities. What do they like to do? Do they like to play golf or whatever? Do you have kids? Do you understand the person first? And I think once you truly are able to do that and get to understand that person, the walls start to come down. Maybe not necessarily right away, but I think that is the key to be able to truly end up getting that vital information out of them over time. You have to be patient, be vigilant, be consistent about it. Don't just call them to want something. For me, a lot of times I'm being genuine. I'll call them and I have absolutely zero agenda to talk about any work at all. I'm literally just calling them to check in on them, see how their kids did over the weekend and their games or anything like that. Truly being genuine and understanding them as a person. And then ultimately in your natural conversations, you're going to eventually get out of them what you need to be able to, okay, here's how they truly view this. This is why they're not necessarily, positive about our particular efforts, because let's say that, an effort before has been tried, and these are the reasons why it failed, and they really don't want to go down that path again. So then, as a PM, I'm going to be more and more curious, and maybe not necessarily talk to that person, but I'm going to maybe make friends and talk to their staff members, and ask them questions. Okay, why did that fail? What were some of the issues, that particular effort faced? And I'm going to make sure that I take care of those particular issues so that they don't hurt us as well and go down the same path. So honestly, when you really think about it, in a way, is I'm building my own repository just by talking to the other folks and understanding why is it that this particular effort, that they're negative about it. That for me has been a key to success, is just being genuine, talking with them, take them away from work, go and get to know them. I think, it's not easy, and you have to do it. You have to do it within you. It's not something that you can learn or memorize and be. It has to be genuine. It has to be your style. I think that is really the most important, and that's at least how I've been able to overcome some of those negative stakeholders and turn them into, quite frankly, some of our biggest advocates over time.
Exactly, and very well said. Look, you will find negative stakeholder almost everywhere, It's not that they are born like that. It's just because they are not aligned with your thought process. And in your view, they are negative. But from their point of view, they are trying to do their job. And yeah, so knowing their point of view, and also knowing why they are negative about you, about your sponsor, about the program or work you're doing is very important. And then following and building relationship with them is very important. As you said, if you don't have relationship, try and don't look for one of the important thing. Don't go with what other people are saying. That is their viewpoint. That's what that happened to them. Doesn't mean exactly the same thing will happen to you. If you go with that, you're already biased against that person. And I tell you one situation where I was working for HP, and I'm going to work with this network manager. And I was told that this guy, absolutely, he hates project manager, program managers. So initially I said, oh my God, what am I going to do? This is a cloud data center where I have to establish the cloud without network engineer, network team. This cannot move forward. And as you mentioned, building relationship, knowing who the person, the personality is, the person is. And when I was going to data center with him, and I'm not talking about work, I'm talking about what sports he like, what movie he watch, how many kids, what they're doing, trying to bring ourselves the common ground. And that's where the relationship building happens. Common ground, definitely, that there's no alternative than to bring yourself to the same level. Then information flow is very, very natural. So as a person, know the other person and see what are the common grounds. And that person actually become very good friend for me. And he said, Dharam, I know you are new to this cloud and all this technology, and I'm here to help you. Come and knock my door and call me. I will be with you in any meeting. So from absolutely hater to the project programmer, now we have a kind of a love relationship. So beautiful relationship. So
yep, exactly. It's so true. And yeah, everybody always asks me, how did you do that? And they dial in now, into our meetings, and everything's all hunky dory and it's fantastic, and they think it's easy. But I remind them that back in 2016 when we first started, I used to dread getting on those phone calls. It was horrible. It was absolute torture. I'll never forget. It was on Tuesday mornings, and then it ended up having a conflict. So then they pushed it to Tuesday afternoons. So I would just be sitting there all day, just grinding my teeth, just waiting for this awful meeting to start. And truly, we sit and we talk about those days, and we laugh about them now. But everybody thinks now, because they weren't a part of it then, that, oh, you just have it easy. And it's like, no, you don't understand. You're seeing the fruits of the labor. That we finally came to an understanding with one another and everything. But at first, it was brutal. It was absolute, just not enjoyable at all.
yeah, and there's a good term for that. You were lucky.
Yeah.
You were just lucky. It's not lucky. What people see is the tip of the iceberg.
That's right.
It was easy go, not really. When I was working with on this problem, absolutely not. It just, the efforts put by me and things happen, staying positive. All this had made look easy now. Then right.
Yep. You end up delivering on what you said, which then gains that credibility, which then backs up the honesty that what you've been, in your discussions with them. And then ultimately, that's what ends up getting you through those, as we've talked about, those real critical problem solving, decision making skills earlier today. Having those relationships when there's some real tough times. That's what's ultimately going to get you where you need to be, and it ultimately ends up making them look good too along the way. Because at the end of the day, your goal is to make your customer look good. That's the bottom line.
Exactly. And just like you have perception about other person, other people also have perception about you. So if you have some open discussion, maybe they can get to know you better, and you get to know them better. That's where you start coming to the same level. That's where the absolute communication start happening.
Perfect example is that when I walk into a room and there's a bunch of folks that I don't know, but they had heard through the grapevine that I played football, and let's say that they went to a rival school of mine. I'm literally like a kid in a candy shop, because I know that while they might want to give me a little bit of a hard time for going to the school that I went to, that means I already know what we're going to be talking about, and we already have common ground. We can yuck it up over the particular the rivalries. Like perfect example is it ended up being where a couple of years ago North Dakota State played James Madison University in the national championship football game of FCS. And we were, I mean, the whole game we were talking mad smack to one another. But how I got NDSU ended up winning. But what I did immediately was I went on the NDSU bookstore website, and I bought, honestly, it was $100 worth of like green and gold pom-poms, like all NDSU, just knick-knack garbage stuff that you wouldn't necessarily buy. Like I bought all kinds of cheerleading stuff, and then I sent it to his office via FedEx. And he literally was taking a picture of it all on his desk, and he's like, you got me some good target practice items for this weekend, thanks. Just having that type of fun along with it, it makes for it's good camaraderie. But yeah, I got a good laugh out of it.
Good. Look, this is a good example. And yeah, guys who are watching this, make sure we build relationship. Relationship is the one which takes you next level. So absolutely.
That's right.
Right. Good example. All right. So how can change management and risk mitigation be handled in sensitive project program management or portfolio management?
Yeah, I would even say, risk mitigation, some of the sensitive projects that we work on can certainly be at in a classified type level where you're not able to necessarily over particular open communications be able to clearly say what needs to be done or things like that. I think you got to have a little bit of creativity, but I think that's where, again, in the in face-to-face meetings, but from a risk mitigation standpoint, and even we go back to PgMP or PfMP type, or even project management, PMP, you have to have a risk mitigation plan or a risk management plan. And I think honestly, when you've built, you don't even necessarily have to have an extensive relationship with your stakeholders yet, but I think do your risk management plan. I think getting all of your stakeholders involved early is going to be the key to success here, where some of these particular projects that have never been done before, that I've had the honor of working on, they've even said the sooner we fail, the better we can, the faster we can move on and get things done. So I think really the best way to handle that, certainly you're going to have changes. There may be a change in any type of philosophy or different priorities, but I think upfront, sharing your risk management plan, identifying everything in the risk register, and sharing it with everybody, and literally say, what have we missed? We would really like your feedback to understand, like, hey, did we cover all of the things that you folks were looking at from a risk standpoint? I think the more you get your stakeholders engaged, internally and externally, I think the better off you'll be, and it will, number one, probably minimize your change management and your change orders. Certainly if there's different priorities that end up happening, that's just the nature of the beast. But from a risk mitigation standpoint or risk management, I think the sooner you get everybody involved in that, the better off you're going to be, especially in a sensitive type project.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Thank you. My next question is, as a program portfolio manager, how did you recover from wrong decision-making mistakes and keep the project and program portfolio moving?
Yeah, definitely have done a lot of that. But first and foremost, I think you got to be honest and upfront. I've even, one thing, whether it's my decision or someone else's, where ultimately if it was someone else's the decision that they made and it gets to me, we really, I try and always promote the team concept. We win as a team and we lose as a team. And so we always have as I say, the so what, now what, how are we going to get out of this mentality? But I think first and foremost, we've kind of already covered it. Again, being upfront and honest with your customer. That's been my
Definitely.
biggest asset, quite frankly, being able to share with them, like, look, I made a poor decision here. These are the reasons why we made the decision. I recognize that this ended up being the wrong one. But before I even come to them with that, before I admit all of that, I already have a plan to mitigate that or find a way to get out, because you can't just say, I messed up.
So what?
You have to have, all right, look, I messed this up, but here's how I've already started to turn it around, and these are how we're going to do it. If it could be a 2-day delay or whatever it is, but we're going to be able to, hey, I've got another person that I brought over to be able to catch us back up to where in the end, it doesn't affect the final delivery date. So not only being able to admit what you've done, but giving the customer a plan to get you back, or get well plan, I think are the biggest things. So just that's important. I learned early on in my career when working with the military, you don't tell the commander no. You tell them, no, we can't do this, but here's what we can do. So don't just say no, have a solution and find a way to get to where we need to be. I think that more than anything in my time working with them, that was the biggest takeaway. Like you can't just tell them no, we can't do this. You have to be able to say, okay, but here's what we are coming to the table with, and that will certainly get you through those tough times. And honestly, you're going to make poor decisions. That's just the way it is. And as you get older, you get more seasoned, and things get more complicated, and those decisions may end up affecting a lot more than when you were just a project manager. But again, I don't think it changes being honest and upfront, but also having an understanding of what you're already going to need to do to get it back on track. I think that's what's allowed me to be successful and get through those times.
Exactly. And look, decisions, and sometimes we have to take decision, wrong or right decision. Sometimes it's better to take decision than not take a decision. And if that decision didn't work out very well, as you correctly said, being upfront, acknowledge that, being transparent, and and when you are saying that, yep, I took a decision and then we got negative result or something, and this is my plan, actually, just bring the confidence. Okay, it happens. We understand, but the good thing is that you have a plan, and that may give us a result or maybe better result. So that's the transparency and keeping your stakeholder informed, and sometimes let them make decision. Okay, you give them options. Hey, option number 1, option 2, option 3, pros, cons. But in my and actually also telling them, from my point of view, I think option number 1 is great because of these reasons. So they will pick option number 1, and they feel that they made the decision. And if something goes wrong, you actually said, okay, it's not me took it, you took this.
Well, yeah, you're right. And not only that, I would also say is when you've made that decision that ended up being the wrong one, understand and really look as to why it didn't work.
Yeah.
Because there could be an opportunity in there where, from being able to an opportunity risk and being able to exploit something in the future. Like, hey, the reason that it failed this particular time is because the conditions were X, Y, and Z. But next time there may be an opportunity, if the correct conditions are, and you can list them out, this is something that you might want to explore, because there could be an even a greater opportunity to take advantage of. So even sometimes in the negative, I would definitely understand, evaluate, and see if there is a positive that can come out of that. Maybe not necessarily on your project, but in future ones.
Yeah, and definitely learning from those mistakes is very, very important. Keeping them as a lesson learned so that you learn and other people in your organization also learn and improve further and further. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is what is, sometimes we do experiment. Like say, if we talk about Thomas who built the light bulb, how many times he tried? 1,000 times. So it took 1,000 attempts to, and he could have given up after 1, 2, 3 attempts, and okay, and probably family and your colleagues, all of them are discouraging. Why are you wasting time? Do and go out and do something better. But you have to believe in yourself and keep pushing yourself. Yes. And then finally, when you have the light bulb, great. People will see only light bulb. They will not see the 999 attempts you took to come to that point. Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I'm in an entrepreneur class right now, and we're talking about new business startups and everything else. And certainly some of your most new business startups fail in their first year. And even when you get past that, when you're looking into some of these technology or web applications, and they even said where 7 out of 10 offerings to a customer, they're going to reject. So that, looking at that right there, 70% of the time you're going to fail. But you got to find a way to, but that 30% can certainly make up for that 70% of the time you're failing. So again, it's a matter of perspective and continuously being ready to take new challenges on, and finding a ways to succeed is really, we've all failed. You and me both, Dharam. It's just how we responded is what makes us successful.
And then look, failure a part of your life, and one is you fail and you give up, then absolutely you've done nothing. You failed, realize what I did, I've made mistake, and what I'm going to do next time better, so that I will have better chance of succeeding. You may not succeed again, but keep learning, and your growth is from learning from those mistakes.
Yep. One of my favorite quotes is, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yeah. Yes, you have to look at, okay, it didn't work. What can I do? What else can I do? And look at your resources. You look at your, open your mind. That's why I say out of box thinking. Ask question, what can we do? What else we can do? Why we're failing again? Why? And getting deeper into the solution mode. You never know.
Yeah, typically even some of the best ideas sit out on the on the edges, not necessarily, we're all focused on the the meat and potatoes, but typically some of the best ideas are out on the outskirts of your your value proposition canvas, where you can't have tunnel vision. You got to be able to truly see the whole macro picture, and when you truly keep open eyes, that's when you'll find success.
Absolutely. Look, thank you, Justin, once again, and we have done so many podcasts together. It's the discussion, open and unscripted, is the best way to, I think, to give back to the community. And thank you for being honest and giving us real examples that makes our discussion more exciting and more engaging. So thank you. Yeah, so we'll have more and more podcasts coming up, and hopefully people keep liking it and keep providing the feedback.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you, and I will see you soon in a few weeks, and till that time, bye.